Trampsy's with me again tonight, aren't you, Trampsy? Poor old Trampsy. Trampsy loves the stories. He does. That's my Tramp. We've just had new windows put in. Lord Jesus, the hair here. I'm sweating. It's that's the crack now. Let me bring it in a bit closer. There we are. That's all right, Trampsy. Don't be moving there. That's all right. Yeah. I was thinking of the stories with the old people years ago, you know, and it was magic the way they could tell stories and swing it the way that it took you out of whatever problems you had away. I remember going up to, I used to cross Bunnyquill Bog. Now, Jesus, it was a treacherous bog. Most adults wouldn't go up on it. It's a swamp bog. And I used to cross 3 mile of that bog over to my granny's old house. She was long dead. She died in 1963. I don't remember her. But this house was her home place where she was born and reared. And it was empty at the time. My auntie had it, and I used to go in and light a fire. In them days, the front door key was hung up out the back in the shed. And you just went in, there was turf in the shed and everything. You just went in and lit the fire and you kept the place aired. And this old one come in, you know, with a shawl on her. She seen the smoke rising out of the chimney. And when she found out who I was, she said, I was great friends with your Granny Daly. Mary Daly was her name. And she said to me, you know your granny's spirit is still in this house. And she was a very kind, caring woman. She says, and her sister's spirit is in the house. She died in the front bedroom. She said, in the early 1900s, she was only 18 years old. She died of the consumption, or TB as we know it. And she was a lovely woman too. And I know you're here, she said. And things wouldn't have been great at home at the time. And I used to go over there to get a bit of peace and quiet. But she said to me one day, she used to come over regular then, any time she seen the smoke rising from the chimney. And she said to me, she said, I think your granny wants you to go over to see St. Hugh at the well. I say, who's he? Oh, he's a saint, and then he helps people, and he adores children. And all this is all round the bog, the long hills. She said there's another fort down here. She said all fairies and saints and monks. The old monastery is up there, the remains of it. Very special place. And it's only a stone's throw down the road. So I went down there anyway, and I used to meet this traveller woman. She was an old traveller woman. And bless her, she'd always smile when she seen me, and she'd only 1 or 2 teeth left in her head. But I thought there was something, she was something kind of special. I think she was helping people. She was a healer of some description. I remember saying to her, I said, she was at the gate of the well. I said, do you mind if I get a sup of water out of the well? I hear it's very good. Oh, no, she says, it's not for me to stop you getting water from there. You want to get water from the well, you go ahead. I said, I'd say you help people. I said, I know by you. She just smiled like, you know. And she said to me, we were chatting away, and she said, you have a heavy old burden, she says, but she says, you're strong, and you'll go into a strong man, she said, because of the burden you're carrying. It was as if she could see right through me. Just and I was stunned like, you know. And she said to me, sometimes, she says, life has to be hard before it can become good. She said, but she says, nature and the spirits of nature, i.e. the fairies and that, she says, the saints, they adore children. She She said, you're in the right place. And I says, how would I see some of these things? I said, I hear the old bogmen talking about the fairies. How would I see them? She says, do you really want to see them? I said, I'd love to. I says, because I can feel them and I can sense them. I said, but I can't see them. Oh, well, be good. She says, I'll tell you how you'll do it. She said, you must come to this well. She said, and you'll have to be quick. She says, the minute the first ray of light comes in the dawn, before the first bird sings and before the first dog barks, take a sup of that water. She said, out of that well, and you will see things, and you'll see things you'll never forget. God, it took me 2 or 3 mornings to get it right. It was the 3rd morning I went over there. And I went over and late at night and stayed in my granny's. Big roaring fire, making tea and everything. In them days, nobody passed any remarks on anyone else. You could come and go as you please, And I think it was about the 2nd or the 3rd morning, just as the light was coming up on the horizon. Not the light, but the dark was going and it was turning to blue. Took the sup of water out of the well and went up to the old, where the monastery was. I said a few old prayers to St. Hugh, and I said, I don't think this is working. I said, I know that woman was some kind of a wise woman. I said, but there's nothing working. I said, I'm going to head home now. And it was a Saturday morning and I started heading across the bog. And Jesus, the next thing, didn't this little fella walk alongside me, little small owl fella. And it was the strangest thing ever, because I had crossed that bog many scores and scores of times, maybe a few 100 times I crossed that bog. And what I loved about it was there was no sign of life ever upon it. It was in the moonlight, it was the other world, where the hares would come up to you and everything. But this lad come up alongside me. Now lad, never seen him before. Oh God, he said, and he rolled his shoulders like this. He was a fierce character. Oh Jesus, he said, you've a great spirit, he said. There's lads my age, he said, wouldn't cross this bog. Oh, I said, I listened to the stories, and my grandfather used to cross this bog. I said, and he avoided getting drowned because he played his tin whistle to the fairies and they kept him safe, and they taught him to keep on the hare's pass. I said, I heard them stories. I said, and that's how I'm doing it. Jeez, he said, there's no flies in you. And then he said, I'm going to tell you a story, he said, while we were walking along. And he said, there's always good and bad. And he said, when the bad is getting you down, he says, you see the hill of Croghan up there, and you had a great view of Croghan Hill. And he said, you see the Slieve Blue Mountains over there. He said, there's an old story here. He said, and there are 2 fairy kings. And the fairy king in Croghan Hill, he used to go about dressed in white, he said, and he was gifted with a bow and arrow. Absolutely gifted. He could hit anything at any distance. He said, and there was another lad beyond in the Slieve Blue Mountains, and he was a black fairy king. He said, and he hated the sight of the white fairy king, he said, because he represented everything that was good. And he said his gift, the black fairy king, he said he could turn invisible any time he wanted. But he said he was always dressed in black, but he said there was a red thing there on his chest. So because he said, the white fairy king had a beautiful queen, he said she was more beautiful than any mortal woman. And one day she was out picking wildflowers. She loved flowers. And didn't the Black Fairy King. He saw her, and he was hiding in the woods. And she came in near the woods, and didn't he grab her and brought her back to the Slieve Bloom Mountains. And your man up at Cron Hill, he said, he was devastated. And the black lad over in the Slieve Bloom Mountains laughing at him every day. You got your woman. And he said every time he went to fire his bow and arrow at him, he said he disappeared like that. He said, every night he was in terrible sorrow. He says, that feeling you get in your stomach, that knot in your stomach, the anxiety when you wake up in the morning, another day being around people that aren't good to you. Just I knew exactly what he was talking, and it was as if he could see through me. And he said, this is what was happening to this White Fairy King. And then one day he said he realised your man was standing above in the Slieve Bloom Mountains, and he, heaven and cheer, and I have her now, she's mine, and all that crack. He says, and when he went to put the bow up, he says, he said he was an expert. He said he was gifted, he could drive a bow, an arrow from that bow. He said it was magic, from Cron Hill to the Slieve Bloom Mountains. He says, but he could never get him because he kept disappearing. But this day, he said, didn't he cop on? The red patch in his heart stayed. That didn't disappear. That was his heart. And he said he was took in, he said, and he let fly. God, he said, straight through the heart went arrow. That was the end of that Black Fairy King. And he said, if you ever look at the Slieve Bloom Mountains on a summer evening, he said, from Bunnykill Bog, he says, or Cron for that matter, he said, you'll see the red aurora. He said, and that's the blood of that Fairy King. And I said, he says, don't you ever forget that. He said, these bad lads, he said, never last, he said. And he said, inadvertently, they'll make you strong. But that's some story. That's a true story, that.